Ever wondered how to outsmart everyone in the room, from the coworker who always steals your ideas to the neighbor who insists on one-upping your latest purchase? Niccolo Machiavelli might just have the perfect cheat sheet. Written over 5 centuries ago, The Prince still ranks as one of the most influential works on power and strategy in history. Today, we're diving into 8 Machiavellian principles that promise to sharpen your wits and help you navigate modern life like a true strategist. Before we explore these power principles, let's set the stage. Niccolo Machiavelli was a Florentine diplomat and philosopher living in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. He wasn't just some ivory tower thinker. He had first-hand experience in the chaotic politics of Renaissance Italy, which was about as friendly as a reality TV reunion show. Machiavelli served in various government roles, mingling with influential figures who, let's just say, didn't always have each other's best interests at heart. While his best-known work is The Prince, Machiavelli was also a playwright, writing comedic plays that are often overshadowed by his more serious political treatises. Contrary to popular belief, The Prince wasn't necessarily Machiavelli's personal manifesto on how to be evil. Many scholars suggest he was trying to curry favor with the powerful Medici family after falling out of their good graces. That said, the book's honest and at times brutal observations on human nature have turned it into a controversial classic. So, how did the 16th century Florentine advice manual remain relevant for over 5 centuries? Machiavelli recognized the timeless aspects of human nature, things like ambition, fear, love, greed, and social reputation, concepts that resonate whether you're running a modern tech empire or a cozy family business in Idaho. Today, we'll unpack these principles in a way that speaks to our own high-tech, hyper-connected world. Machiavelli believed that the best leaders must continuously adapt to their surroundings. If the times change, but you don't, well, you might find yourself about as obsolete as an 8-track tape player. Think about Netflix. When it first launched, Netflix was purely a DVD rental by mail service. It was convenient for the time. No more trips to the video store, no more late fees that cost more than the actual movie, but the company realized that the future belonged to streaming, not postage stamps. When the market signaled a shift, Netflix didn't hesitate. It pivoted to online streaming, then even started producing its own content. This flexibility allowed Netflix to survive and dominate while many old-school video stores got lost in the dust. What's fascinating is that Machiavelli wrote about adaptability long before anything remotely like streaming existed. The core idea remains the same. Keep your eyes peeled for changes, anticipate them, and respond aggressively. A modern spin on this principle might involve learning new skills when your job evolves, or relocating for better opportunities, even if it's slightly uncomfortable at first. The key takeaway? The ability to pivot quickly is often what separates those who conquer from those who get conquered. One of Machiavelli's most talked about and debated ideas is his stance that it's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. At first glance, it sounds cold and ruthless, like advice fit for a Marvel supervillain, but there's more nuance than you might expect. Machiavelli argued that people are more likely to fulfill their duties when there's accountability, and sometimes fear enforces that accountability better than love does. Steve Jobs, the late co-founder of Apple, offers a fascinating real-world example. He was notorious for having high expectations, to the point that many employees were terrified of disappointing him. That fear, for better or worse, fueled Apple's relentless push for innovation. Did it make for an exceptionally warm workplace? Probably not. But did it push employees to create industry-defining products like the iPhone and the Mac? Absolutely. A common misconception is that Machiavelli advocated tyranny and cruelty for its own sake. In reality, he was just pragmatic. He acknowledged that people can be fickle, loyal one moment, gone the next. But the desire to avoid punishment can be a more stable motivator than affection. For everyday life, this can translate to setting firm boundaries or showing your seriousness in business dealings so people respect your standards. It doesn't mean you should become a supervillain at your next family barbecue, but it does remind us that sometimes a bit of seriousness can go a long way. Machiavelli famously said that a prince must be both a fox and a lion. A fox is cunning enough to recognize traps. A lion is strong enough to scare away the wolves. In modern terms, you need both strategic savvy and the will to assert yourself when necessary. Enter Elon Musk, who, for better or worse, has embodied this principle in real time. When Musk strategically acquired Twitter, now known as X, many people thought it was a bizarre move. Twitter was a platform known for quick opinions, trending hashtags, and occasional flame wars, not exactly the easiest social media brand to overhaul. But Musk recognized Twitter's potential as a major communication hub and swiftly set out to reshape it, from staff to policies. You might argue whether his methods were foxy or leonine, or a mix of both, but there's no denying that part of his success lies in spotting opportunities that most people miss, and then having the audacity to push massive changes. A more conventional example might be a business manager who's both strategic in negotiation and assertive in decision-making. It's not enough to just be nice, nor is it effective to rule by raw intimidation alone. Balancing the cleverness of the fox with the might of the lion helps you avoid pitfalls, while also commanding the respect and power needed to implement your plans. Machiavelli wrote at length about the importance of appearances and reputation. His logic is that people form judgments quickly, especially when they only have limited information, and often what they see is what they believe, whether or not it's the full story. In the social media age, this principle has become even more relevant. Consider how quickly viral rumors spread online, or how carefully curated some Instagram profiles are to convey an ultra-glamorous lifestyle. In a professional environment, perception can influence promotions, partnerships, and public image. Even in politics, where Machiavelli's ideas often find their strongest echoes, perception can be everything. A candidate's messaging, image, and public presence can overshadow their actual policy proposals. Some might say that modern elections are decided more by optics than by substance, which is perhaps an uncomfortably Machiavellian reality. To manage your own image effectively, it helps to recognize that what you project can become, in many ways, your personal brand. That might mean taking charge of your social media, ensuring that the image you cultivate aligns with who you want to be seen as. It doesn't imply faking your entire identity, but it does mean being deliberate in how you come across. Machiavelli's point wasn't that appearances should trump integrity, but that ignoring the power of perception is a surefire way to lose control of your narrative. Brute force can sometimes get you quick results, but a well-executed strategy tends to win the long game. Machiavelli realized that subtlety and efficiency often trump raw strength. This plays out in today's business world, where the competition can be less about who yells the loudest and more about who maneuvers the smartest. Toyota's entrance into the US market serves as a great example. Instead of going head-to-head with massive American car companies on their own turf, Toyota recognized a niche demand for smaller, fuel-efficient cars. They entered quietly, kept their overhead and marketing costs relatively lean, and slowly but surely built a reputation for reliability. Soon enough, Toyota was recognized not only as a viable alternative, but in many cases a preferred brand. Machiavelli might have smiled at Toyota's approach because it aligns perfectly with his insistence on cunning strategy. You don't always need to stage a grand takeover. Sometimes it's about reading the landscape, finding gaps, and exploiting them without stirring up unnecessary conflict. This approach also translates to personal life or smaller ventures. Sometimes you get farther by collaborating with the right people or offering solutions that nobody else is providing rather than charging in like a bull in a china shop. Even a brilliant plan can flop if the timing is off. Machiavelli believed in the power of seizing opportunities, but it's a skill that requires both awareness and boldness. If you strike too early, you might appear rash or unprepared. Too late, and the moment slips away. History is littered with examples of people who had fantastic ideas but acted too soon or hesitated too long. One modern example is the rise of personal computers. IBM dominated the business computing space back in the 1970s and early 1980s, but they were slow to realize that home and personal use could become a massive market. Companies like Apple, led by a young Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, jumped in at precisely the right time. They caught the wave of computer hobbyists and then mainstream users, establishing the personal computer as an essential piece of household technology. Had Jobs waited a few more years, the entire market might have been gobbled up by a competitor with deeper pockets. What makes Machiavelli's notion of timing so compelling is that it's not just about luck. He believed in reading the room, or the realm, and understanding when conditions were ripe. That might involve gathering intelligence, testing the waters, or simply trusting your instincts at the right moment. When you see your shot, you have to take it. Waiting around for the stars to align perfectly often means missing your window of opportunity. Machiavelli had strong opinions on who a ruler should keep close. Surrounding yourself with capable advisors is crucial, but picking the wrong crowd can be disastrous. As Machiavelli noted, the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Basically, if you hang out with questionable folks who give bad advice and promote destructive behavior, you might not be so wise yourself. In the corporate world, CEOs rely heavily on their executive teams. When those teams are sharp, companies flourish. When they're incompetent, or simply yes men who echo the boss's ideas without question, things can spiral fast. History is filled with examples of companies that collapsed due to poor management and advice at the top level. The same principle applies to personal life. We've all heard that saying about being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Machiavelli's spin on it would be, pick people who challenge your thinking, who bring unique perspectives, and who aren't afraid to tell you when you're making a colossal mistake. It might be tempting to surround yourself with a cheering squad, but a group of honest, capable confidants is far more valuable in the long run. When Machiavelli wrote about new modes and orders, he emphasized that introducing change is risky, but refusing to change can be far riskier in the grand scheme of things. His words ring especially true in today's marketplace, where entire industries can be disrupted by a clever startup or a well-timed tech innovation. Think about how Uber essentially redefined the taxi industry, or how digital cameras turned traditional film photography into a niche hobby. Decisive innovation isn't for the faint of heart. It involves risk, capital, and the willingness to challenge established norms. Yet, history repeatedly shows that those who dare often win. Machiavelli might argue that companies or individuals too comfortable with the status quo eventually get left behind. Of course, it's a balancing act. Innovate too much or too often, and you may confuse your market or outpace your resources. Innovate too little, and your product or idea might turn into a relic. A modern illustration is Tesla, which embraced electric vehicles long before most major car manufacturers took them seriously. Sure, early Teslas were expensive and occasionally mocked for their limited range or design quirks. But Tesla bet on the future of sustainable transportation and took decisive steps to make it happen. Fast forward a decade and nearly every major auto brand is hustling to catch up. This is Machiavellian thinking in a good way. Recognize the unfolding trends, commit to bold changes, and accept the risks involved. After centuries, why do people still cling to Machiavelli's writings like it's the secret map to hidden treasure? Part of it is the allure of forbidden knowledge. We're often taught to be nice, fair, and transparent in all aspects of life. Then here comes Machiavelli, pointing out the less flattering sides of human nature, our capacity for deceit, greed, and fear, and suggesting that we at least acknowledge these tendencies if we want to understand how power truly works. Yes, it's crucial to remember that Machiavelli's observations don't have to translate into outright ruthlessness. Many of his principles can be applied ethically. Adaptability helps you stay relevant. Establishing a healthy form of fear could be setting high standards. Being both fox and lion means balancing cunning with courage. Managing your circle means choosing high-caliber friends and advisors. None of these necessarily imply backstabbing or manipulation. They're more about having a clear-eyed view of the world around you. Jokes aside, Machiavelli's insights have shaped leaders, innovators, and everyday folks for centuries because they tap into universal truths about human ambition and behavior. Hope you found this video helpful and that these 8 power principles spark fresh ideas for your own life, whether in business, personal growth, or just outsmarting that one neighbor who thinks he's always right. If you enjoyed diving into Machiavelli's world with me, don't forget to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. After all, knowledge is power, and there's nothing more Machiavellian than keeping your edge razor sharp. Thanks for watching.